Hi guys, hope forecasting went well. Hope your spreadsheets look great. I hope you were able to format them the way you want them. You have the color schemes that you enjoy, bolding where you want it, all that fun stuff. Like I said, there's a lot you can do in Excel, a lot of fun stuff, and you can make it exactly how you want it to look. And we hope and encourage to see, your creativity coming out in these. We joke about that all the time because, it's more like painting your own spreadsheet. That's how we look at us nerdy accountants, anyhow. So we like to build our spreadsheets and have fun with them. But anyhow, this video, I'm going to teach you scenario analysis. So we did forecasting last video. This one's going to be scenario analysis. And it's actually going to be a pretty quick video. All we're going to do is insert one column, call it scenario, and then we're going to change some formulas. And that's basically it. So to insert a column again, it's just going to highlight where you want it to go and hit insert, and I'm going to do that on column B. So right click, insert, and just expand it a little bit, and I'm going to call this scenario analysis, or just scenario. And I'm going to give it a different highlighted color. You guys can do whatever you want, so I'll try and decide which color I want. We'll make it a gray, and how about white font and bold, right? And center that. And I'm going to create a large border. Again, okay. And okay. So this column is to help us calculate if there's ever an increase or decrease of our expectation, right? So we know that the base year is never going to be changed. This has already happened. We're going to forecast based on this base year. That's why we have year 1, year 2, year 3, and year 4. So the first year after the base year is year 1. So if the base year was 2014, the next one we're going to forecast for 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. So that it's easy in terms if we call it base year because we know that this is what's going to help our model forecast, and the years to follow are actually those that we're projecting. And to do this, we want to do it based off of one simple calculation. You can make this a lot more complex. I talked to Lori about if we wanted to even add a separate tab and be able to calculate a different increase or decrease in every single year. But we're just going to keep it simple for this video. You can do that, and it would impress us if you guys try to do it, but we don't expect that. So if you guys can just follow here and create it like this, and for our class and for the questions that we ask, I think it will be just fine. So when I know we're calculating things off of our prices, off of our cost per tire, and our fixed costs. The filler formulas, which are revenue, variable costs, and some of the totals, those we do not need to project anything off of. So I'm going to put 100%. That's going to be our base, right? Because if we expect an increase, it's going to be above 100. If we expect a decrease, it's going to be below 100. Because we're going to be multiplying year 1 times the base year. Year 1 will be the base year times this scenario, and so on and so forth. So to give you that example here, I typed in 100% under price per tire. If I say F5 times B5, right? It's still going to be $230. But if I were to expect a 5% increase year over year, and so I would have to change this to 105%, you can see that year 1 was multiplied the base year times 105%, which is now a 5% increase, which is $241.50. And you can see year 2, 3, and 4 carry over that 241 because they were a function of the year prior. So year 2 is a function of year 1, year 3 is a function of year 2, and year 4 is a function of year 3. So what I want to do is I want to drag this formula over, but what we learned in the last video is I can't simply do that, because if I drag this over, that formula where it says B5 is actually going to go to C5, D5, E5, and so forth. So you can see that it gives me an error, right? So I'm going to undo that. And what you might remember is we want this. So last time we did this, we kept it in the row column. So for our growth rate, when we dragged those calculations over on the tires, installations, rotations, repairs, how many of those? We wanted to stay in row 13. Well, we want to stay in column B this time. So not a row, a column. So if you might remember, we had the money sign in front of the 5. This time we want it in front of the B, because when we drag this down, we want it to go to B6, B7, B8 when we drag that down. But when we drag across, we want it to stay put in column B. All right. Great. Now I can highlight these cells and drag down to row 8. And you can see that it looks like there's an error here because it calculated 0, but if you think about it, 15 times nothing is 0, 35 times 0 is obviously 0, and so on and so forth. So we're going to put 100% in these as well. Change this back to 100 because this is our original copy, remember. So let's put 100% in the areas that we know might encourage us to make a scenario different from what the original is, which is our sources, our uses, our sales. And why we're doing it on sales too, because you're like, well, aren't we using the growth rate for sales? Well, yeah, we could say, you expect a 5% growth rate year over year, but maybe you want to say 105 or a 5% increase every year. And it's just easier doing it in the scenario column as opposed to on the growth rate. All right, and we're not going to do it in this revenue area because we know that these are a function of the sales times the price. We're not going to do it in the variable cost section because we know that's a function of the cost per tire times how many tires we sell. Fixed costs we do though, because we know that the ones that aren't the total column, or I'm sorry, the total rows, is a function of whatever's in that base year. So 100% for Tim is, we might say, I can guarantee you that we'll expect increases in salaries. In industry, usually we're seeing like 3% increases, based depending on what you do. I'm a bit higher because they bring us in pretty low and they say, well, you're going to jump up a lot every year. So we have a little bit wider range. So it definitely depends on the industry you're in. But a lot of the clients I work on, a lot of the assumptions that we go with are usually 3% to 5% range of salary increases year over year. And we use those for our data analytics. But just to give you a heads up, we are going to expect payroll to increase over years. Health insurance could be the same thing, right? There's inflation year over year. There could even be deflation, which we'll talk about in economics. But we want to make our spreadsheet functional so that any scenario that we might want to check out, our spreadsheet has the functionality to do so. So bring that 100% down to all of your fixed costs, just not the total line. So total wages, you don't need that 100% because you know that that's just the summation of the payroll costs as well as the total fixed costs. That's a total line as well. So if you hit F2, you can see it's just adding up total wages through the rest. And obviously total operating expense and total operating profit, those are functions of two things already too. So you don't need the 100% there either. And I'm just going to center column B. All right. And now you can see that, we might request you have 5% increase in tires year over year, but installations, might not go up as dramatic as 5%. we might say 2%, right? We should actually increase our columns here. It's not letting me. Why? Because I might say 2.5% like I just typed in, and we will want to see that. So expand 2 out. All right. I'm going to make this a little larger. Okay. So you can see 5%. You can change for tires, installations. I was able to change, but the nice thing is we made it so that you don't have to say 5% over all of your products that you sell. We made it as a function of which product. So we stratified that a little bit more. But like I said, this is just our original spreadsheet, so we're going to call this, or make all of them 100%, and we will make edits to it when we bring the tabs over, which I'm going to show you how to do again right now when I fix this border. Oh man, struggling. Bear with me, I apologize. Okay, go back up to the top, and how we copy over a worksheet is very easy. I showed you in week 1. You just go down to the tab, so it says original, right click, hit move or copy, create a copy, click it, and say move to the end. And now we can call this, scenario 1, or scenario 2, 3, 4, whatever you want to call it. Just obviously it's not going to be the original. And when we do a different scenario, we always start with the original, and we make a copy of the original, and then say move to the end, and that'll be the new scenario. Nice helpful thing too is if you insert a few rows here and you create a box, use the merge and center, wrap the text, and then put it at the top and left align, and then you can say description. And what we'd like you to do, what we'd like you to do is describe what you've done in this scenario. And I did this in the original, which is fine, so I'm going to delete scenario 1. To delete tabs, you just right click and hit delete. Okay, and now I have this description box, and we can type in those descriptions when we use it. So right click, move or copy, create a copy, move to end. Now I'm going to call this scenario 1. And then my description is, maybe price per tire increases 5%, wages increase 3%, and our growth rate stays consistent all 4 years, increasing by, say 8%. Okay, now we have to make these changes. So, actually, I'm going to use a decrease. I'm going to say our growth is going to stay consistent by decreasing 3%. I know it's called a growth rate, but for terms of just showing you what happens, we're going to say that our product is actually going to diminish over the 4 years. So I'm going to say it's going to go down 3% every year. And I just want to show you how to calculate that, because I've been talking about growing over the last video and this video, as opposed to what happens if there is a decrease. All right, so the price per tire is going to increase 5%, right? So it's going to be 100 plus the 5%, because we want it to calculate, well, our formula is set so that it will equal the year before. The year before times 100 is that price, right? So to increase it, you have to go up 100 plus whatever that increase is, which is 5. So 105%. And you can see it calculated for us, and it gets larger each year, right? Because it's a function of the year prior times the scenario. We said that, we noticed that we didn't talk about installations, rotations, or repairs, so we can keep those at 100. Wages increased 3%, so go down to your wages, right? Tim's going to go up 3, Duncan's going to go up 3, and Matt's going to go up 3. And we did this by employee because, maybe we don't increase somebody's salary. If you have a lot of them, you're probably not going to have the payroll on your actual original tab. You'll probably have that calculation somewhere else. But for our sake, it's nice and simple to have it here. So we're going to do it person by person and have it them increase 3%, all of them. Maybe, like I said, in our scenario, we don't increase Madge's wage this year. We keep her at what she is, and then we increase the other two. But 3% increase in wage. And lastly, we have a growth rate stays consistent all 4 years, decreasing by 3%. So how do we do that? Well, we could do it up here in the growth rate column and say, well, decrease 3%, so that's 100 minus 3% or 97%. And we could do that this way. Oops, if I could type. And you can see it calculates for us, right? So 970, 940, 90, 913, 885. Or we can put these all back to 100. And I want you to kind of picture what these numbers are right now, because I'm going to show you a different way, and it should be the exact same calculation. So we should expect in year 4 for tires to be 885 when I do it a different way. So let's go back to 100 each year. Okay, we could go over on the left-hand column and type in 97. Oops. And it looks like I didn't do my calculations off this yet. Nope. So I forgot to do these. So times B19, and we want that to stay in column B, right? So we're going to put it on the, we're going to put it before the B. And now we can drag across and down. See, there's that 885. So I missed that calculation earlier, and I apologize. But that's how we catch things like that. We play with the original, and so I'm in scenario 1. So I'm going to have to make this now my original and put everything back at 100 because I noticed I just made a mistake. But it's a good exercise to see that how I made that mistake when I caught it by playing with the different scenarios. So now we can put these back to 100, and you can do it either way. The nice thing about having the functionality of using the growth rate and the growth rate line or growth rate row, as well as on the scenario tab, is maybe you only want to do it on one product. Say tires are only going to increase 5% every year, while installations only increase 3%. But the nice thing with the growth rate up here is we can stagger it. We can say that the growth rate year over year could be different, right? So maybe you grow at a smaller rate to begin with, 2-3%, and then in year 4 you're all the way up to 10% because a lot more people are aware of your product. So it's just a way of trying to create as much functionality as possible with these spreadsheets. So I'm just going to fix my borders again, and that is that's scenario analysis. So that's the end of this video. I'll see you guys in sensitivity analysis.